Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the DraftKings and FanDuel MLB picks starting pitchers today. July 31st, and it's trade deadline day. It's the last day any players are eligible to be traded before the waiver process in baseball. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of deals continuing throughout the day, and hopefully none of the guys we're going to be talking about are going to get traded before lock, because that really hurts a lot. So be sure to keep in tune with the trade deadline today, and make sure the guys that are in your lineups are not on the block, or if they are on the block, make sure that they're not getting traded. There's a 15-game slate today, so every team is playing. Every game starts after 7:05 Eastern time. There's going to be a lot of information happening at the same time, especially with the trade deadline approaching. There are 5 aces tonight I wanted to talk about. Obviously, Clayton Kershaw against the Angels, Matt Harvey against the Nationals, Danny Salazar against the A's, Madison Bumgarner against Texas, and the last one is Johnny Cueto. This is his first start for the Royals against the Toronto Blue Jays. Of these guys, the only guy I really like, of course, is obviously Clayton Kershaw. It's not much can be said about him. We don't need to go into detail because he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. He's been absolutely incredible, and he has a decent matchup against the Angels. But of those other guys, I want to talk about why I do or do not like them. Matt Harvey's the first guy. Wouldn't mind having him in tournaments, but the thing that he has run into this year is sometimes his fastball has been flat and has led into some trouble. And the Nationals do have some guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Obviously, Bryce Harper, who is, it's weird because he's 0 for 14 against Harvey, but obviously that's a small sample size. He had a good couple games, Harvey did. So they do have some guys that hit the ball out of the ballpark, and I don't know if I could trust Harvey and Cash, especially with that Nationals lineup getting healthy. The next guy is Danny Salazar against Oakland. The A's do not strike out too much, regardless of that last night. I believe they struck out 9 times against Carlos Carrasco. Carrasco's stuff was unbelievable last night. Nobody expected him to deal like that against the A's team, who really puts the bat on the ball. They have been struggling to score runs, but they don't strike out as much. So I'm not willing to pay a price for like a guy like Salazar when there's other guys that can at the same price point that I'd rather have. The other one is Madison Bumgarner against Texas. Texas is a very dangerous place to pitch. It's one of the top hitters' ballparks in baseball. I don't mind picking Bumgarner tonight simply because Texas has struggled overall against lefties, but their lineup is back and it's doing well. Adrian Beltre is in the middle. Prince Fielder is hitting the ball well. Odor doesn't really play much against lefties, but they have some guys that can hit left-handed bats like Robinson Chirinos, the catcher there, and they have Ryan Rua, who had a home run last night. So although those are the guys that don't scare me away, I don't think I'm going to have Bumgarner in my lineup as well because I will have Kershaw in all my cash lineups. I just can't see myself spending $25,000 and having a second guy that I don't love absolutely positively in a best matchup. So the last one is Cueto, and I will not have any Cueto tonight against Toronto. That lineup is just too good, and this is Cueto's first start for an American League team in an American League ballpark, so he has to face an extra hitter in the DH, and that Toronto lineup is just incredible right now. It's a ton of talent, so I can't see myself spending on him at all. So I was mentioning I'm paying up in Kershaw for cash game when I have him on FanDuel, when I have him in DraftKings everywhere. It's not just he's the safest pitcher, he has the highest upside as well. So to me, he's still worth that price tag, even though he is very expensive. But for my second pitcher, I'll probably mix in some Bumgarner, maybe some Harvey and GPPs, probably not with Harvey or with Kershaw because of the talent or the price that is going to cost for both of them. But there's some other cheap pitchers I wanted to talk about today. And first one is a guy that, just like we talked about yesterday with Jimmy Nelson against the Cubs, today is a similar pitcher in Taylor Jungmann, who also faces the Cubs. Obviously, we talked about last night, the Cubs strike out a lot against right-handed pitching. They've only been hitting just over 200 in the last month, and that offense is really struggling to score some runs. For me, I like Jungmann today simply because he's been one of the safest guys in baseball since he's come up. He has 9 starts, and he has 2 earned runs or less in 8 of those 9 starts. The only start that he struggled, he gave up 4 runs in Coors Field. And for those of you that have been following baseball, you understand that Coors Field really limits the movement on pitches for starting pitchers. A lot of balls fly out of the ballpark, and there's always the most runs scored every year in baseball there. So looking at his only bad start being in Coors Field, and it was only 4 earned runs, that tells a lot about a pitcher that's been very good. Now, when he was in the minor leagues, he didn't strike out a lot of hitters, but he's been doing that lately, and it's kind of surprising to watch, but it's been fun. He has 5 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts, and 7 strikeouts in his last 3 starts, and one of those starts includes a complete game 3-hit gem against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have the highest numbers against right-handed pitching in baseball. So it's been very impressive for him, and that's not his only good start against a good team. Jungmann also dominated the Arizona Diamondbacks with 7 strikeouts as well. So we're looking at a guy that's been pitching very well, has beat some good offenses, and tonight he faces offense that's been struggling a lot. So I think he's my cheap option today, and that's Taylor Jungmann against the Cubs. Now, in cash games, I'm going to be mixing him with Kershaw. So Kershaw is expensive, but considering Jungman is a little bit less expensive on Fantasy Aces, DraftKings, view guys like that, or sites like that, we can use 2 or 3 pitchers. It's worth it for me to get both of them because I both think they're top options, and you're not spending that much more to get both of them in your lineups. Now, there's 2 other cheap pitchers that I think have decent matchups tonight, but I probably won't have a lot of them because I don't like their upside. That's Ian Kennedy and David Phelps for the Padres and Marlins, respectively. They're pitching against each other. The reason why I don't mind these guys today is because those are the 2 of the worst offenses in baseball against right-handed pitching, being the Padres and the Marlins. And all they do is face each other. You're not going to be using both of them because I think you need to get Jungman or play Kershaw into your lineups tonight, or at least I feel that way. I think one of those two could be a good pair with a Kershaw or a Jungman if you chose to spend on bats. I know there's a lot of good bats today. Kyle Kendrick is pitching for the Rockies. You have some guys pitching that have given up a lot of home runs, a lot of runs scored. So there are going to be a lot of highly priced bats that we want, like some Cardinals bats. But to be able to do that, you're going to need to free up some space. So if you choose to do that and you choose to spend on your bats, I think Ian Kennedy and David Phelps, one of those 2 would be a pick. Of those 2, the guy that I like more is Ian Kennedy because I think he has a little bit more upside than Phelps. Sometimes Phelps struggles to strike guys out and he doesn't get deep into games. But Kennedy does have the talent to do so. So of those 2, I do like Ian Kennedy. So to wrap up our pitching segment for today, I want to discuss that I will have Kershaw everywhere. We'll be mixing in some Harvey and Madison Bumgarner in tournaments, but I will have mostly Kershaw and Jungman in pretty much all my lineups and be mixing and matching in there. And in some GPPs, I'll probably throw in some Jungman with maybe an Ian Kennedy share just so I can spend up on those Cardinals bats and those other top bats for today. That wraps up our pitching segment today. And as always at Roto Curve, be sure to use every tool you have to your advantage. We have that daily variable matchup tool. We have the bomb detector tool, which was great last night. 4 of the top 6 guys all hit home runs. So it's a good night for that. And those are up each day. And to use those, just kind of, it tells you what the matchups are. It tells you who has a good chance to hit a home run or have a good day. And it's not gospel, but it does help you move your make your lineups and do some research. So that paired along with the Roto Curve lineup page and all the rest of the tools, be sure to use all of that to make your lineups. And once you have your lineups made and the guys you like, always tune in to Danielle's weather, which will be up later this afternoon. Because when you look at the weather, you've got to find those guys that are going to be pitching in games where the weather's not going to be a big factor. I know pitching in games where the weather is an issue, it can really decimate your lineups. So be sure to check out all of that along with the rest of everything on Roto Curve. It's a lot of great stuff up in the forums today, a lot of interaction back and forth about the guys that we like today, guys we don't like. So for everything we've seen here, and good luck tonight. It's Friday night. It's the last day in July. So let's get some money for that bankroll for Argus. Good luck, everybody.